What's up, YouTube? SwooCube here. Today we're going deep into the Pokemon Pocket IRL draft cube that I've built for 2 players. We're going to talk about the contents of this cube. I'm going to walk you through my list and explain the individual cards and the type of gameplay that I'm looking to promote. But before I get there, we have to define our terms. What the heck is a cube? Well, quite simply, a cube is a curated set of cards designed to be drafted and have decks built from over and over and over again. Think about it like kind of a pack battle system in a box that allows for well-balanced and competitive gameplay. It is a custom rule set, right? So with pack battles, there's changes to energy rules, changes to evolution rules, and the same is true for cube, right? Pokemon is not a game that was designed for limited play, so we just have to tweak some things a little bit, which is what exactly what the Pokemon Company has done with the pack battle rules, which I suggest you look up because it's actually a very cool system if you haven't already. You can find it online in the official alternative play handbook. Anyway, we're talking about my cube here. So the first rule that must be adjusted from the traditional Pocket rules, traditional, right? The game's been out 2 months, is the evolution system. In Pocket and Pokemon Classic, right? There are fixed evolution trees. I like to call them evolution trees. Caterpie evolves into Metapod, which evolves into Butterfree. In a limited environment with a small fixed number of cards and random packs being generated for players to select cards from and build decks from, something like this does not work, right? Nobody would ever be able to pull off Butterfree because you have to assemble 3 cards and it's really hard to do in a limited environment. So what we do to allow for these cards to even be played together is something called mutant evolution, where Caterpie could evolve into Metapod, which could then evolve into Venusaur, or Caterpie could evolve into Exeggutor, which could evolve into Venusaur, or Squirtle could evolve into Exeggutor, which could evolve into Electros, which would kind of be weird, but possible, right? Any basic can evolve into any stage 1, could evolve into any stage 2. Just full stop. In my previous videos, I was tinkering with some additional rules, but those are unnecessary. Really, for this cube, it's quite simple. Basic can evolve into stage 1, can evolve into stage 2. Types don't matter in regard to evolution. Now, that sounds wild, right? Players are still heavily incentivized to stick to their colors because it'd be really difficult to build a deck that could produce water, grass, and electric energy, right? You're highly incentivized to keep your evolution lines kind of intact within 1 or 2 colors because you have a random energy generation system that produces an energy each turn of a specific color, and you want to be able to actually play your attacks. That is kind of how I handle evolution. Now, there's an additional step to this for Pocket because of how small the decks are and how high the consistency is in how the decks function. I've found the need, and this is actually really cool, to basically have players pre-select evolution trees before games begin. So this is an example of what I would consider a pretty good evolution tree, right? You get your random cards, you're building your deck, and basically at the start of the game, you predetermine, my basics in this line are Squirtle and Scyther, which will evolve into Exeggutor, or Go-Goat, which will evolve into Butterfree or Venusaur. And then you can have another line of, say, Oddish into Lilligant, into Superior, right? Or, yeah, that'd be good. Basically what this does is it allows for maximum flexibility in terms of how you use your Pokemon, but it keeps Pokemon Pocket's decks built in the same way, which is highly important for how sensitive this game system is to balance and rule changes. And I've kind of determined this through lots and lots of testing. This restriction actually opens up a whole like sandbox puzzle ground of really fun combinations. Certain Pokemon get way better or way weaker depending on how you kind of place them in evolution trees, and it's really, really fun. Like building decks in this format is kind of like putting a really cool puzzle together. Notably, EX Pokemon at any stage can't be evolved from. So any EX is the topper of that line, right? So if you have Celebi or Pikachu EX, they're not evolving into anything. If you throw down a Venusaur EX, which I have here somewhere, right? That's obviously stage 2, it's the top anyway. But if you had a stage 1 EX, you could not progress that line above stage 1. And that's because, you know, IRL in Pocket and the real card game, right? EXs are always line toppers. So that's kind of how it works here too. You can also have a chunkier, you know, section of your line. So, you know, some decks in Pocket will like to kind of split a certain evolution stage. Like think about the Executor decks that have 2 EX Executors and 1 regular. You know, you could tack Venusaur EX onto this line, and this would be an allowable legal evolution tree in this cube. And you could do up to 2. So basically, you can only have 2 basics in a line. You can only have, for stage 1 and stage 2, you can have 2 non-EX Pokemon and up to 2 EX Pokemon, right? You could have less too. You could build a line like this, or a line like this, or a line like this, or just that, or, you know, this. But it's really mix and match, and it creates a lot of really fun exploration and strategy when building decks. So that is a more long-winded than I intended intro to the rules of how evolution works in this cube. And that's important to understand as we kind of talk through the cards, because that's the environment that they'll see play in. Now, every Pokemon card included in this cube is a singleton, only 1 copy of each. Keep that in mind as well. So we're gonna just start going through the list here. I'm gonna spend a little bit more time talking about water as an example color, and then we'll move a little bit more quickly through some of the other colors. So Psyduck, Pikamuku, Bruxish, and Krabby are my 4 basics of choice in this color. There are 10 Pokemon total in water. Got the Articuno EX over there, a couple stage 1s. And then for stage 2s, we've got Greninja and Blastoise EX. So 10 total. You know, keeping in mind the mutant evolution rules, I really wanted to have kind of a balance or a mix and match of different types of basics, right? We have, you know, a really useful, you know, any energy type attacker, which is really great when, you know, if you want to evolve your Psyduck into a Jolteon or something, get an electric energy on him and getting to use that move is very, very flexible and powerful. I, as much as possible, am avoiding the baseline 60 HP, 20 damage, you know, baseline basics, in favor of ones that are a little bit more powerful. You know, in the game, this card's kind of balanced because it doesn't evolve into anything, right? In this cube, it's just a strong basic that you still want to evolve, but it's a little bit more threatening, you know, against the field. You know, Bruxish and Krabby are examples of just stronger basics that require multiple energies. And then, of course, we got the Articuno EX. What else to talk about here? Oh, for each color, I do include 1 copy of the relevant kind of gym leader supporter. So for water, obviously, we got 1 copy of Misty, which is pretty fun. Although sometimes not. We all know how that goes. Each color in this cube has 2 EX Pokemon, which is a pattern that you'll kind of just see as we move through. For fire, water, and grass, there's a basic EX and a stage 2 EX. For some of the other colors that I include, it's a little bit different. So we're gonna go ahead and zip over to fire. Keep in mind that, you know, these cards also need to support Blaine because there's 1 copy of Blaine. So we've got the Magmar. Heatmore is kind of that Pyokomoko example of a strengthened basic. We got Vulpix and just like a standard kind of attacking basic. Moltres, Ninetales and Rapidash for that Blaine synergy. Arcanine, and then Salazzle is just a you know, a decent 2 energy attacker. And then Charizard is our lone stage 2. Fire doesn't really have any other good options other than Charizard EX at the present time. So that's how we're doing it. Fire has 1 extra stage 1 compared to water. Grass has that Celebi EX. Scyther, Caterpie, Tangela, Execute as the basics. Lilligant, Exeggutor, and Gogoat as the stage 1s, Superior and Venusaur as the stage 2s. And notice that, there's a lot of kind of there's like little synergies from some of the popular decks that we've seen that kind of exist in here as one-off copies. So you'll be able to kind of pull off those plays in this cube, but not to a degree of consistency, obviously, that you would see in a full constructed deck that has 2 copies of Celebi and 2 copies of Superior, right? That, of course, is balanced out by the fact that you can get to Superior by evolving Scyther into Lilligant, right? Or Tangela into Executor, or whatever, right? Or just any Pokemon from anywhere can evolve to get to these points anyway. Let's talk electric. Basics: Pikachu, Electabuzz, Dedenne, and other Electabuzz with 2 basic EXs. Raichu, Electrode, and Jolteon are the stage 1s, and Electros is the lone stage 2, right? So different configuration in terms of where the EXs kind of land in the evolution trees and how many of each stage we have. This is just kind of based on the card pool, but I'm trying to kind of promote and allow colors to have their own, or different types to have kind of their own vibe and their own, their own play style. So this is obviously kind of lends itself to the Pikachu EX type thing, but the addition of Jolteon, Electros does open up some other types of things you can do with electric. The final color that I've included in this cube is fighting. We got Hitmonlee, Onix, Cubone, Hitmonchan as the basics. Graplock, Sandslash, and Primeape are our stage 1s, and we also have 2 stage 1 EXs of Marowak and Aerodactyl, and then we got Golem as our stage 2. Old Golem, not new Golem. Now, in terms of our, colorless, before I get to that, and then we'll get to items and supporters. We've got our utility basics here, and our wall basics, our tanks, right? I really like in this cube how cards like Porygon, Meowth, and Chatot take on a whole new power level, because these can evolve into any stage 1s. And because they have colorless, flexible energy costs for their attacks, they can really go into any deck. They're not just kind of stand-ins, right? And, obviously Kangaskhan and Tauros stand on their own merits. We see lots of them, or saw lots of Kangaskhan's and still see lots of Tauros. In terms of the supporters, right? For kind of the general stuff, we run multiples. So Sabrina, I kind of deem to be the most important supporter in the entire cube. There's 3 of that. And keep in mind, this cube is designed to support 2 players. So we're going to draft this thing and have 2 decks available. And I only included 3 Sabrinas because I want there to be some competition for that effect. Other kind of general key supporters I include as 2 of. So there's 2 Leafs, 2 Giovannis, and 2 Blues. Very much look forward to the card pool expanding and getting more supporter options. But obviously these are the utility we have right now. For the gym leaders, there's just 1 of each. Probably the strongest being Erica, and Brock is the weakest. Misty can be amazing or a total dud, as we know. Items, I kind of follow the same logic as I do with supporters, in that I run 3 copies each of X, Speed, and Potion to promote that competition, right? I do want these available to both players, but I want them to be kind of prioritizing them in the draft. 2 copies of Pokemon Flute, 2 copies of Red Card, and a single Hand Scope and a single Pokédex. These numbers could be totally jimmied with. It might even be better to have 2 Pokédexes and 1 Pokéflute. But I do feel like for the size of cube that I have, the way that I structure the draft, the numbers for X, Speed, and Potion are very important. Now you'll notice that I was missing Pokeball and Professor's Research as I talked about the supporters and the items, and that is because these cards are so important that I just give them to the drafters for free at the start, right? Each player gets 2 of each and doesn't even have to think about it, right? So in reality, these are going in every single deck. So you're not really building 20 card decks, you're building 16 card decks. But again, that's the case. I have found that with this limited setup, the games are incredibly engaging. The draft process is that I employ is a simple 3x3 grid, where you deal out kind of 9 cards, and each player takes turns taking a row or column, and then you just do it again. Do that 9 times, which is why I have 81 cards, right? 81 divided by 9 is 9. 9 rounds of that takes about 5 or 6 minutes. You've got your cards, about 30 cards from which you use to construct your 20-card deck, and you go to town, play a best of 3. The whole thing, you can draft, get through the games in like 30 minutes. And it's very interesting, right? The gameplay mechanically is the same, right? You have the same kind of density of your evolution trees, so you're hunting for your stage 1s and your stage 2s the same way you do with Pocket. You're playing your professor's researches and your Pokeballs, and I play with this format because there are prefixed evolution trees. We play open deck list. So at the start of the game, you build your deck, you snap a picture of it on your smartphone, and then you show the picture to your opponent, and it's just kind of you can text it to them. It's so that they have it at their fingertips to refer to during the game. Because just like with a tournament in Pocket, you know what cards are in your opponent's deck, you know what they've played already, and so the number of possible ranges of outcomes shrinks over time, and those critical decisions, late game in Pokemon, it's so satisfying to pull those off, and a lot of fun, and that is all intact in this cube, right? All of those vibes, all those things that we love about Pocket, you get from this gameplay, but you also get the really fun sandbox of the flexible evolution system. You get kind of infinite replayability. You get the ability to kind of do this in real life at your kitchen table with your kids or your significant other or your uncle or whatever. And yeah, I'm really, really quite pleased with how this thing has turned out. I mean, I've been thinking about it since building a cube for Pocket since I played the game like day one. I'm like, this could work. But I tried to use classic Pokemon cards from the IRL TCG, like from 1999 till now, like the real game. I tried to use those cards with the Pocket rule set, and it did not work because the balance of Pocket cards is so fine-tuned for the small deck size, for the right pace of games. Like you monkey one number, an HP stat, an attack power, a retreat cost, and cards go from being like insanely good to like totally unplayable. So it's just really uneven. So that kind of led me to the point where I decided to build a Pocket cube using Pocket cards, and I'm super glad I did. And I certainly plan to continue to maintain and update this 2-player cube into the future. Now, the reason that I have restricted the colors is just simply due to size, right? The game of Pokemon has too many colors to fit in a tight little package. That said, I loved this tight little cube, this 5-color 81-card cube so much that I, after playtesting it a handful of times, immediately built another cube. That is all of the colors. Instead of being 81 cards, it's 162 cards. It can be played with 2 players, 4 players, up to 6 players. And I actually think it's a better cube than this cube. So that will be a subject of a future video. I am going to link, I built a Google Sheet to track the cards included in this cube. I will link that in the description of this video, so please check that if you'd like to, have a convenient format to access those cards. When you access that spreadsheet, you'll see there's actually a tab for my larger cube. So spoiler alert, you can go and check that out before I make a video. But I do plan to make a video. I think next I'm actually going to do a video of an example draft and deck build, and I'll kind of talk through what that looks like. And hopefully that'll help kind of bring things home a little bit. But yeah, thanks for coming and checking out my cube. I'm really proud of it. Really, really happy with it, and very excited about the future of this format. This is not the only way to do it. There are many ways that you can adapt Pokemon for limited play. The way you draft, form follows function. So if you want a different draft format, or to support a cube for more players, or maybe you just only want to have cube with poison, or I don't know, whatever. It's a sandbox. You can do whatever you want, but you can create really cool microcosms of gameplay that are, homages to Pokemon Pocket, but do their own thing. And yeah, very much encouraged. Please experiment. Let me know what you come up with. I'd love to kind of start a little community here because I think there's definitely gold to be mined in this space. Anyway, thank you for sticking with me through this lengthy video. I appreciate your time and attention. Please, again, like and subscribe. I will be back very soon with that example draft and deck build video, and then I will start talking about the bigger cube, and we'll go there. So be blessed. Talk soon.